Hey everyone, Sunday morning garden tour. Thinking this will probably be my last one for this season. The garden's still looking pretty good, but it's getting pretty cold at night, and I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks from now I'll be pulling out most, if not all, of the tomatoes and peppers, which is 90% of the garden. So thought I'd get this in. We have a few more warm days, and I'll kind of show you how everything did this year. May, I'm sure, would be happy to help narrate, and Dan's over there chopping wood in the paddock. So over here I've got a couple cucumbers. These are the Boston pickling cucumbers. I can't believe they're still going, but they are still going. They're still putting out even some. They're putting on just little baby cucumbers still. These vines have been going since mid-June, so I'm really impressed with this variety. They didn't get bitter until probably like early August, which is kind of a minor miracle because it's really hot here in July, and cucumbers get bitter. So I'm really impressed with this variety, and these vines have done really well. Over here, I've got a solid tomato wall. I don't tend to prune this side of this bed right here because it gets the reflective heat off of the gravel, all of this rock right here. When it's 100 plus degrees, it reflects right on to these two beds right here, and they get super hot. So I leave as much foliage as I can there to kind of help shade the actual fruit that's in there. So this one in particular looks quite wild, but there's quite a bit of fruit still in there that's ripening. It's ripening much slower now because the nights are getting really chilly. But we've got a lot of fruit left to go. This giant zucchini, so there was one right in this spot earlier in the year, and then it succumbed to squash vine borers, just like all of my pumpkins, unfortunately, did. And so I replanted it probably mid-August or so, and it's already pumping out a ton of zucchini. I've gotten a ton off of this plant just in the last week. This is a Magda, is the name of the variety, and I really like this variety. It's got really meaty, non-watery flesh, and it just puts out a ton of zucchini. So it's a good one. Like, you get a lot of bang for the buck with that one. Over here I've got a little bit of basil peeking out, all kind of going to seed right now. And then I've got these arroz con pollo peppers. Let's see if I can find one. They're down here. They look like a habanero. They're not ripe yet. They'll ripen to like an orange. This plant or this pepper variety is used to make sofrito, so that's why I grow it, because I like making sofrito. But it is by far the latest variety to ripen. Last year I think I only had like 10 ripe fruits on this plant when the frost hit. So this variety is really difficult in a temperate climate where you get kind of relatively short growing season. It's really meant to grow in places, more tropical places, where there's a much longer growing season. So I might get maybe a dozen ripe fruit off of this plant, possibly, before the frost hits. And if I do, that'll be enough to make like one batch of sofrito. And then over here, I've got, these are called pizza peppers. These are a new one to me. They ripen to a really deep red. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, here's one. These are really nice, super thick-walled, yes, big makama, big cucumber. Yep, thank you, May. These are super thick-walled and really crunchy, sweet, really nice little snacking pepper. So I'm very impressed. I really like these. May loves them a lot, and so I'll definitely grow them again. And it's a pretty prolific plant. There's a lot of fruit on here, although not a lot of ripe fruit. So I'm hopeful that this plant kind of gets with the program and starts ripening soon. Over here I've got serranos. I just picked a bunch off of this plant, but there's a bunch more. Especially, I actually probably need to top these peppers, meaning I need to cut off the top so that they stop. Like you can see here, there's still a bunch of flowers and a bunch of tiny little fruit. So it's trying to produce more baby fruit, and what I really want it to do is just ripen the fruit that it has. So if you cut off the top of the plant, that will help tell the plant to put its energy towards the ripening the existing fruit. Here is another Magda squash. Here's what the zucchini looks like. They're really nice. This is like the perfect size to pick them, and they're just a really tasty zucchini. Over here, I've got Cubanelle peppers. You can pick them green or red, and those also go in the sofrito, which is typically what I grow them for, but they're also a decent, like, sweet snacking pepper. They're not super sweet, but they're also not spicy at all, so you can just cut them up and snack on them or put them in a stir fry, something like that. And then over here I have chamayo, which, again, these were all planted so late, which is why I have so much green fruit and not a lot of ripe fruit. It was just planted super late, so I think I'm not going to have a huge harvest this year, unfortunately, just because of my lack of good timing in planting these. I just had so much cabbage and broccoli in this space that I delayed on planting my peppers, and learned a good lesson. This one is a cayenne. Again, ton of fruit on this cayenne pepper, but I don't know if I'm gonna get much ripe fruit. So a few more hot days, hopefully, and maybe it'll help if I top the peppers, but I'll just keep my fingers crossed, basically. May is picking some basil. That is called blue spice basil, and it is an amazing basil if you like basil tea, which we do. Basil tea, all it is you put like big handful of basil into some sort of vessel, and you pour boiling water over it, and you let it sit for a couple hours, and then you pull all the leaves and all of the stuff out of the jar, and you sweeten it with honey. It's really good, and it's particularly good with this blue spice basil because this has a really interesting scent. It smells amazing, and it's got flavor notes that other basil doesn't have. So it's almost got like cloves, like vanilla. It's got a really strong vanilla taste. So highly recommend this if you want to try basil tea. It's something we've been enjoying all summer long. I actually need to pick some more while these plants are still looking so healthy. They're very prolific, so they're easy to grow, and they just make really stellar basil tea. This is a huge stand of some type of Genovese basil that I don't know what the variety is, and I'm kind of bummed about it because I actually really like this variety. It took a long time to bolt, to go to seed, which typically basil seeds out very quickly. This has finally gone to seed, but it took months really for that to happen, and that's a very desirable quality for basil. So I'm gonna save the seeds off of this because I don't remember what variety I planted right here, but I'm gonna replant this again next year from the seeds from these plants. So TBD. I wish I could tell you what variety this is, but I don't actually know. We've got a few carrots down here that are sizing up and looking nice. Some cold nights will make them taste even better, so we're leaving them in the ground for now. Over here I have got more peppers. Yeah, some really nice looking. These are humongous. These are probably 8 or 9 inches long, and I really wish I could tell you the variety, but May pulled most of my tags out, so I really don't know. I wish I could say what it was, but I don't know. Again, some more humongous. These are bell types. These will be a sweet bell type. Just no clue which variety they are, which is kind of a bummer. I don't know. This is maybe something you have to deal with when gardening with toddlers, but if anyone has suggestions for how to label your plants in a toddler-proof way, I'm open to them. Over here, I replanted this Marina di Cayoga pumpkin because my other one got killed by squash vine borers. It got planted very, very late. There's just no way that the fruit will ripen in time, but it's pretty to look at. It climbs the trellis really fast, and kind of same story with the one next door here. They climb fast and they're pretty, but these fruits are just, they're tiny. There's no way that they're going to be ready, unfortunately. Although this one is quite large. But even at this stage, this has weeks to go before it would be ripe. And I don't think we have weeks left before frost, unfortunately. So I don't think I'm going to get any pumpkins this year again because of the squash vine borers. This is now my second year in a row with no pumpkins due to squash vine borers. So I'm on the warpath. Next year, I'm going to be throwing everything I've got at the squash vine borer problem. Over here, these are my Ivarski peppers. I picked a whole bunch off, and this the second flush here is still ripening. So hopefully I'll get some more, because that's one of my favorite types of peppers. The Ivarski are really sweet and kind of smoky, and just really a delicious pepper. You've got some tomatoes. Thank you for picking those. Over here I've got a poblano. That's got some nice sized fruit on it, and then some kind of tiny. And I do apologize. It's morning, so it's really bright light and shadow and hard to see. I'm sure this video is going to be a little bit tough to watch. Some giant bell types right down here. Really nice big ones. Those I think are YOLO Wonder, because there is a tag right here. May must have not seen that one, so we'll kind of push it back down there. I believe these are YOLO Wonders, which are really good. I've grown the California Wonder Bell, which is a very, very popular bell type. A lot of big box stores, like a Home Depot or whatever, you could go there and get a California Wonder. I found that they don't produce very well. They'll put on a handful of peppers. But the YOLO Wonder, which I think is a hybrid of the California Wonder, is much more prolific with a similar type of pepper. So if you can get your hands on YOLO Wonder, I do recommend that one. What else? Some Big Jims. These are a little bit spicy. Good for salsa making, and also they freeze really well. So good if you need if you just want to pull out one, kind of medium spicy pepper for a dish. They freeze really nicely, and you can just pop them out of the freezer and chop them up. Some more really big bells over here. I leaned heavily into the bell peppers this year because I love stuffing peppers, and I think we're going to have a huge amount here for stuffing. These are some nice ones down here. Some really pretty peppers. There's one that's kind of reddish down there. I could not tell you the variety again. I don't think there's a tag over here, unfortunately. So, yeah. Kind of a bummer, because these ones, particularly on this side of the bed, are very prolific. They're giving off a ton of peppers, and I really wish I knew which variety this was, because I would like to plant this again. I actually think it might be Red Knight. If I had to guess, I kind of vaguely remember planting Red Knight over here, and I think that's what these are, and they're a hybrid, and they're a very early producer, so they put on a lot of peppers very early in the season. So I think I would recommend that one again, or I would definitely replant it again in the future and just make sure that my impressions are correct as far as this variety. But over here, that fennel that I cut down in July is already now this big again. And the pollinators just love fennel. Like, I mean, it really brings in a lot of bees and stuff. I have tried planting spinach in here several different times over the last month, and I think either the seed is old, which is a possibility, or it's just been too hot for the seed to germinate, because spinach likes cooler weather. So I have a tiny little patch right here that has germinated, but the rest, I mean, I put a ton of spinach seed in here, and like only a little bit has come up. So I think maybe it's just been a little bit too warm. My eggplants were a big disappointment this year, unfortunately. I think I have a nutrient deficiency in this bed, and they have really suffered. Also, this is my shadiest bed, and they just need more sun, more heat, more sun. I think I've only harvested one eggplant this whole year, which is kind of crazy. So, lesson learned, I need to get more compost in this bed, but also don't plant eggplant here again. So good for me to remember. The kale's doing amazing, really amazing. I'm waiting for it to cool down even a little bit more to harvest some of this, because it will sweeten, it'll make the kale taste better if it's colder. This kale I planted in February, I want to say, late February. So it survived the whole summer and being attacked by aphids, which is kind of amazing. You got some kale? Okay, very good. Over here, I have a giant squash growing, kind of rambling all over here. I also have 2 silver slicer cucumbers that are truly at the end of their life. I don't think there's a single cucumber on either of these vines, so I just need to pull them off. The fact that they look as decent as they do kind of goes to show that we've had an easier summer this year than in past years, because typically by this time, these vines would be horrendously like tattered and brown and just like kind of dried up and shriveled. We just haven't had the like super, super hot stretches of weather, and nor have we had the windstorms that we typically get. We get some like mighty windstorms that come through here, and we just haven't had very many this year, or hardly any this summer that I can even remember. So the lack of wind has been good for the garden for sure. Everything looks much better. All the plants look better than they normally do for this time of the year. I started some more silver slicers right here, and these are still putting out some cucumbers. I just harvested a bunch yesterday, so that's why I don't see any on there right now, but highly recommend silver slicer cucumbers. They don't get bitter in the heat. They're really nice and crunchy, juicy, sweet, like all around a really, really good cucumber. I have grown it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, and consistently impressed by the fact that it makes it through our summer without the fruit getting bitter, because it gets so hot here, and it just does amazing. And over here, more tomatoes, tiny bit of cilantro growing down there. These tomatoes, okay, I think I talked about this earlier in the season. This whole bed, these tomatoes were like stunted, and look at them now. They're almost reaching, well, they are reaching the top of the trellis. So I thought about digging all the dirt out of this bed, and now I'm second guessing myself. Like maybe it was just a nutrient deficiency, and maybe it wasn't herbicide damage. So I'm not sure if I'm going to dig out the dirt. I'll have to think on it a little more. Probably not. I'll probably just add a whole bunch of compost onto the top. Over here I've got, these are called Upstate Oxheart. So this is a specialty variety I think I got from Hudson Valley Seeds, and these are big. I mean, this particular fruit isn't that big, but they get quite large, and there's very little juice in there and very little seeds. So these are excellent for making sauces, because then you're not having to kind of boil off all the juice and separate all the seeds. So this is a really, really good sauce making tomato, especially because they get big. The only thing that I would say is the plant itself doesn't like a whole lot of heat, which is why I kind of planted it in the middle of this bed, so it would be a little bit protected by the vines around it. Because I tried planting it last year, I think over on the hottest part of one of my beds, and the plant just shriveled up and died essentially. So you kind of have to baby the plant a little bit. It was bred in upstate New York, so it's not used to the Utah summer heat. What else? Thorburns terracotta. I don't know if you can see the color of this fruit in the shade. It's terracotta, pretty terracotta color, and then the fruit itself is a really interesting flavor. I planted this one year and got almost nothing off the plant, and then I was almost ready to abandon it, and then I tried it again the following year, and I just had such great luck with it. So it's just one of those things where, like, sometimes you gotta try again, because you may get a variety that just for whatever reason didn't thrive that year, and it'll surprise you in a good way the next year. And then sometimes you get some that just don't work, like San Marzano, for instance. I mean, I think I've maybe grown San Marzanos for 5 or 6 years, and I've gotten probably less than a handful of good usable fruit off of the plants. They just end up with blossom end rot really bad, and I just have had no luck with it. Some nice looking fruit still on here, and quite a lot of cherry tomatoes. A ton of cherry tomatoes. We really need to get after these. Maybe do some like sun-dried tomatoes with them or something, which would be good. So, we've got a few carrots down there coming up. I don't know if those will actually be like full carrot sized before the frost hits, but we'll leave them there. So that's kind of it for this year. Like I said, things are just looking better than they normally would, and I've had a lot of fun in the garden this year. It's been a better than average season, I would say, in terms of like weather and yields, and just gardening with May, which is so much fun. She loves to be in the garden with me. So it's a lot of fun just coming out here, picking tomatoes with her. She loves to pick the fruit off of the vine and show me when she sees one that's ripe. She gets so excited. So it's fun doing this with her, and I enjoy it. May, did we plant that spinach? I forgot to show you guys. We planted, these buckets had potatoes in them, and then we replanted them with lettuce and spinach. So we've got some lettuce, and then this bucket actually has some late potatoes in there. So we're gonna have just like a handful of potatoes out of that one, but got a few more. Some winter lettuce coming up. We'll cover it once the frost comes, but yeah. Hey May, do you want to say bye-bye? You want to say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.